Okay, so I told you about the close encounter where the craft
Yeah.
is hovering low. Barney was standing in the field and he became terrified when all of them, except for one, left the windows and went to a panel and their arms went up. And when that happened, little red lights slid out on fin-like structures. Something started to drop down out of the bottom of the craft. And we know that's the carrier beam
Okay.
today.
Okay.
And he didn't know what it was. He just saw it coming down, and he saw that face of the one staring down at him. And he had the sensation that he was going to be captured like, quote, a bug in a net, close quote. That's what he said.
Wow.
He pulled the binoculars from his eyes so forcefully that he broke the leather strap, went running back to the car, screaming to Betty that they had to get out of there or they were going to be captured. As he was looking back toward the field, the craft was now moving in his direction.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. We have a very special guest lined up for you today, and I'm stoked to get started. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Hey there, Cosmic Truth Seekers. I'm Justin. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together. Kathleen, would you like to say hi?
Hello, everybody. Nice to be with you today.
Yes, thank you so much. And I am stoked for our audience to get to hear this story from you. This is like the first time we've had a really, really big UFO case and someone who has personal history with it. So I'm very excited. All right, so today on Living Life Consciously, I am truly honored to welcome Kathleen Marden, an award-winning UFO researcher, author, and investigator, and one of the most respected voices in the field of extraterrestrial contact. Kathleen is also the niece of Betty and Barney Hill, whose 1961 encounter is widely regarded as one of the most significant and well-documented close encounter cases in UFO history. Kathleen's connection to this phenomena is both deeply personal and profoundly scholarly. Her journey began as a teenager, witnessing firsthand the aftermath of her aunt and uncle's extraordinary experience, and it evolved into a lifelong commitment to understanding the reality of contact experiences. Over the decades, she has conducted extensive research, worked closely with experiencers, explored the use of hypnosis in abduction studies, and co-authored what is considered the definitive book on the Hill case called Captured: The Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience. Today, we'll be diving into the Betty and Barney Hill case through her unique personal perspective, discussing what decades of research have revealed, and exploring what these experiences may tell us about consciousness, contact, and humanity's place in the cosmos. There you have it. Thank you so much, Kathleen. I'm stoked.
Me too.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, we've never spoke to somebody who has like such personal experience with such a huge case. So thank you so much for being here with us today. This is so exciting.
My pleasure. Happy to be with you.
All righty. So where would you like to start the conversation? I mean, we could start it as early as what was your life prior to this, if you want? Maybe we can get into that. Or if you want to just hop right into the day that you had this experience, and it's up to you.
Well, let me tell you about my family and where I grew up. I grew up in a small town in southeastern New Hampshire. My family had been in New Hampshire since 1637.
Wow.
We were some of the original founders of the New Hampshire Wilderness Territory back then, settling Hampton.
That's a flex.
So we've been there for a long time. And I grew up across the street from my grandparents in Kingston. My grandfather was a selectman in town. He was the chairman of the board of selectmen, which is like being the mayor of a city.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
small town.
Mm.
And also a welfare agent for the town. And my grandmother was a welfare agent with him. So I kind of grew up in that environment. Also, they were farmers.
Wow.
Okay.
And my father owned a small business. I lived with my parents and my two brothers. I was the eldest child. And we had a perfectly normal kind of childhood. No talk about UFOs or even the paranormal.
Okay.
It was, everything was political or farming, that
Okay.
kind of
Okay.
thing.
Okay.
Right.
So aliens was totally out of the norm for your family at that time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. No knowledge of it whatsoever.
Okay.
And so that's the childhood I had up until I was 13 years old.
Mm.
And I returned home from school in the afternoon, and my mother was on the phone with my Aunt Betty. And I overheard the conversation, and it was different than any conversation I've ever heard before.
I'm
There was a
sure.
great deal of concern in my mother's voice.
Okay.
Betty was telling her that they had this close encounter with, she didn't call it a UFO, a flying saucer.
Oh, okay. Taking it
Okay.
way back.
Close
Yeah.
encounter with a flying saucer that had come so close to their car that they were afraid they might have been contaminated.
Mm.
And we had a neighbor who was a physicist. So my mother said that she would call him when he arrived home from work. So there was a little bit of a waiting period there, but I had the opportunity to learn more about what happened and how about this craft had hovered like only 200 feet above their vehicle,
Whoa.
and then 100 feet above Barney when he got out of the car and
Wow.
walked into a field. And that's why they were so concerned. When they arrived home, they felt the word clammy. I don't know if you're
Clammy.
Yeah,
familiar
yeah.
with
Yeah.
that word. We are in the Northeast,
Yeah,
where
I'm
I
familiar with it.
originated from.
For anybody that
But
doesn't know, clammy is basically like when you're like sweaty and you feel gross and you're like, ugh, like, you just,
really dirty.
yeah, yeah.
Like the inside of a clam.
Yeah.
The dirt, the grime, the
Just
salty,
yucky.
all
Yeah.
of that.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, they felt really dirty, clammy. They took long showers. They sat down and they made sketches of the craft that they saw. And Barney's, I have it today. It's on my website if you want to go there at Kathleen-Marden, MARDEN.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that sketch there. I've pretty much lately devoted my website to them instead of other topics that I used to work on.
Okay.
Okay.
So you can see all kinds of information about them there. But, so it was close. And then also there was evidence that they could not explain. My aunt's dress was torn in several
Okay.
places. My uncle's best dress shoes were so deeply scraped that he ended up having to buy new shoes.
Whoa.
Wow.
When the physicist arrived home, he told Betty that if she had a compass, she should take it out to the car to see how the needle reacted.
Mm.
Now, Betty somehow believed that was going to check for radioactivity. No, it doesn't do that. It checks for a magnetic
Magnetism.
field.
Mhm.
Right.
And UFOs leave electromagnetic fields on vehicles and anywhere that they show up, actually.
Okay.
And when they come into contact with a metallic surface. And so there was an electromagnetic field on the trunk of the car. It caused the compass needle to whirl. And there were new shiny spots that were not there the day before, but were there after that craft hovered over my aunt and uncle's vehicle, and they heard code-like buzzing sounds striking the trunk of their car. Those code-like buzzing sounds, according to Barney, sounded like someone had dropped a tuning fork.
Wow.
Like
So
a
you can
lot
go
of
to
reverberation going
Yeah.
on, right? Okay.
Yeah. You can go to YouTube and put that in, sound of a tuning fork,
Uh-huh.
Sure.
and you
Yeah.
can hear that sound if you want to hear it. There were about 7 of those buzzing tones. And so that was another concern, all of these things. And then my father's best friend stopped by for coffee every night on his way home from work. He had been the chief of police in our neighboring town of Newton, New Hampshire. And he said that Betty and Barney should file a report with Pease Air Force Base.
Oh.
And why? Well, Pease had notified all of the police departments that if anyone had a UFO sighting, they should report it. So apparently there were UFO sightings in that area at that time.
Huh.
Very interesting point, Kathleen. Very interesting point. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
So that was interesting. They filed a report and went on with their lives, essentially. But Betty decided she knew nothing about UFOs. She decided to go to the Portsmouth Public Library to check out the first book she had ever read on the topic.
Okay.
And it was written by Major Donald Kehoe, and he was, retired from the military, from the Marines.
Right.
And he was the head of the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. So Betty sat down and wrote a letter to him. The address was in that book that she checked out. And so she wrote a report, and she diagrammed the erratic pattern of the craft. She talked about the unusual flight pattern, the unusual lighting, how it had swooped down. She also told the Air Force how it had swooped down over their vehicle. And when what they told the Air Force was it was the size of a dinner plate held at arm's length. So keep in mind, the full moon is the size of an aspirin at arm's length. So this was huge.
Yeah.
This was not something, a distant star in the sky. It was not ball lightning. That kind of thing. Well, all the explanations.
The debunker.
Right,
Love
yeah.
that. Listen here, you debunkers. We've got answers.
Yes, listen to me. I have the facts in hand.
Right.
I've done my homework and my
Literally.
investigation. I set up the Hills archival collection at the University of New Hampshire. So they have a
Wow.
physical archive there with all of the records.
Love that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So to get back to what happened to Betty and Barney, they did have a visit from Walter Webb from NICAP. And Walter Webb was an investigator, but he was also an astronomer. So this is a scientist.
Sure.
Theirs was the first scientifically investigated case.
Good point. Good point.
Alien abduction in the United States. So I always hear from people who say, I was abducted before them. They weren't the first. I said, I'm not saying that they were the first. I'm saying they were the first scientifically investigated case.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
There's a difference there.
Yeah.
So anyway, Walter Webb interviewed them. He did a very good investigation over a fairly long period of time. He did the initial report. He went up to the White Mountains with Betty and Barney at a different date and actually photographed where the close encounter field was, where Barney stood in the field to look up the craft as it was hovering 100 feet above him.
Okay.
That kind of thing. He saw non-humans. Betty's report to NICAP mentioned the figures dressed in black, shiny uniforms that Barney had observed as he stood in that field looking up at the craft. So the debunkers will try to tell you that that none of this happened and that everything came out under hypnosis, and it was all because Betty had had a series of dreams after they saw a light in the sky. That is complete nonsense.
Yeah.
Right.
The original reports that you will see on my website have the factual information. So that's what I try to stress: education, facts. I used to be a teacher.
Me too.
Before I became an author and an investigator. Yes. So that's really important to me.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Do you mind if I just share a quick
no, go right
revelation?
ahead.
When you said, because I'm familiar with their story, and I knew that they saw, or specifically Barney saw, four beings inside the window of the craft, and they were like, they looked at him, right? And then you just mentioned the tight, shiny black suits. I just recently covered a little bit of the Ariel school case. Are you familiar with the Ariel school
Oh,
case?
yes.
Those
I've
kids.
met two of the girls in
Oh,
Ariel
so
school.
look at me
Yes.
asking her if she's familiar. Sorry, I didn't mean to insult insult your
I've been around a
experience.
long time.
But I remember specifically the children. They were all sitting in like a group by a tree. There was an interviewer there, and they said that they were wearing a tight suit, and the only way the kids could like give you something to compare it to was like a scuba suit, because they were like, oh, well, is he just like a policeman? No, not that kind of suit. Oh, is it like a firefighter? No, not that kind of suit. And as soon as they said scuba, they were like, yes. So that's so
Yes.
interesting. I don't think I made that connection before you just said that.
Right. And Betty said it was like a diver's suit. So
Synchronicity.
yeah. Yes. I think of a black leotard, but
Okay,
those were the words that they had
Sure.
back then. So
Sure.
yes. So yeah, and that was probably John Mack or
Yep.
Cynthia Hine who was interviewing them.
Yes, ma'am.
And very much involved in that investigation. Very, very interesting case.
Yes. The thing that sticks out to us the most about that is the quote where the little girl was asked a question about, like, what do you think their message is, or what did they say to you? And her reply was, don't get too technologed.
Right. Right.
Like,
yeah,
whoa,
well,
like I never even heard the word technologed. But go ahead.
I thought, no, it's not a UFO. And then I looked carefully at it, and I thought, maybe. And I saw this person, and it had big eyes. That's all I saw about it, big eyes. I saw a little object hovering. It was quite big, actually, and then there was little ones all around it. I think they want people to know that we're actually making harm on this world, and we mustn't get too technologed.
Well, little Emily Trim, who is now deceased, when she was on stage talking about it, and this was one of the conferences where I met her, just started weeping because she said it was too much for a little child to comprehend. It was too intense. They gave her images of trees falling down, blowing over, like environmental destruction, that kind of thing. And the messages that many, many experiencers have received have to do with preserving our environment or anti-nuclear. They show people a nuclear holocaust and the horrors of that too when they're on craft. But it's because they're concerned that they want us to change. They say that our technological development is out of sync with our spiritual growth.
Right.
And it needs to be in balance for the survival of the species, for the survival of everything on this planet. Because when the technological progress is way above that level of spirituality, then you could end up with mass destruction.
Right. And I mean, looking out at the world we're living in today and all the stuff that's happening in only the third month of 2026, it's pretty scary.
Yes.
It is.
It's concerning.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely.
I have personal experience with that exact thing that you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I myself am an experiencer.
Mm-hmm.
But Allie and I, we used to do CE5 meditations religiously, like we were going to church. We did it every weekend for like 2 years straight. And during one of those meditations, um, I too got the images flooding into my mind of just nuclear bombs going off everywhere and everything just being totally annihilated.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I really feel like I was shown that to try to get the message out, to try to stay away from any sort of war or
Mm-hmm.
nuclear engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and a lot of people that I've worked with who are experiencers ended up working in some of the environmental industry or being advocates for getting rid of nuclear weapons, that sort of thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the ETs want. Unfortunately, I don't know if they realize the impact of creating amnesia in
Yeah,
us. I mean, they do it in order to prevent trauma, but people generally remember part of it, so feel a little trauma initially anyway,
Right.
yeah,
until you can work through it. I mean, with education and understanding, it can change the entire uh, perception scenario of what is occurring, and you
sure.
can have more equal footing with these non-humans.
Right.
But when you are perceiving yourself as a victim, it's totally different, and you become a little traumatized.
Yeah, yeah. You're
So,
you're bringing up a great point. Do you mind if I touch on that really fast?
no, go right ahead.
I was thinking like, so it seems when the ETs give us these messages about like destruction and nuclear bomb and fire and trees falling and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
some people can perceive that as like a threat about that's what they're gonna do to us. But really, I feel it's more like they're stewards or guardians of this planet. Maybe they even seeded us or genetically created us somehow.
Hmm.
I don't have any like solid stance on it. I have a lot of theories, right? Because we can't prove
Right.
anything as of
I
this
know what
moment.
they tell people.
Yeah, right.
They
So
tell
so
people that they planted our seed here.
right, right, right. So I'm looking at it more along the lines of like they're trying to prevent that kind of thing, not threaten us with that's what they're going to do to us. Rather, they're trying to save us from doing that to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think that we're their experiment, and they would
Mm,
not want that to fail.
okay.
Plus they're living here
Oh,
now. A lot of them are living, it appears, under the oceans.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So if we were to destroy this planet, they'd have to leave unless they could continue to live under the ocean. But I
Right.
can't imagine what the planet would look like at that point, with
Mm,
the nuclear winter going on and complete darkness and loss of life. It would not be a good place to be.
right. I
What
agree.
what do you think about the idea that they're actually living among us, like camouflaged as us?
Oh.
Have you heard of that one?
Oh yeah, I've probably heard it all.
Yeah, okay, okay.
But I've been doing this for a really long time.
Sure.
She's like, I'm
Yeah.
well versed.
Since
Well,
1961.
well, what's coming to my mind
Yeah.
is the Steven Spielberg movie, Disclosure Day, that's going to be coming
Oh,
out.
that's in June.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's in June, and in
Yes.
that movie, he makes a visual representation of non-humans camouflaging as humans, and you can see like their eyes change, and
Yeah.
it's a pretty good visual representation. But I didn't know what you thought about that, if it's could be real or actually happening.
It's in my gray basket as my co-author on a
Oh, can
couple of
I
books.
borrow that
Stanton
phrase?
Friedman, Stanton used to say that.
Nice.
Yeah, it's in my gray basket. I have not made a decision on that. I've seen photographs of alleged non-humans. I've met people who tell me that they're Nordic non-humans
Mm,
Okay,
living here,
okay,
but I don't have any solid evidence of it. That it's
sure.
just that kind of thing. I can't imagine the grays walking around and not attracting attention,
Right.
or mantis types or reptilians.
Right.
You wouldn't want to run into one in the supermarket,
I know, right?
that kind of thing. So, yeah, but I could see where the Nordics would very easily blend in.
I've heard a lot of rumors about the Nordics and their influence on the planet, and a certain somebody who rhymes with Mittler, who kind of ideal like he took the idea of the Nordics, these tall, beautiful, light-skinned, light-eyed, light-haired people, and he like idolized it and turned it into this whole weird thing that he did. But yeah, and also mantises. I'm fascinated with the idea of mantises and the idea of like potential shape-shifting reptilians living in the in the castles in England. Oops, did I say that out loud? Queen of what?
Yeah, I don't know what to say about
Right.
that. Only it is interesting, and I wonder where all these body types came from. Did the
Yeah.
Nordics actually create the grays? Did they actually create mantis types from the praying mantises that are here? Did they make humanoid praying mantises? What about the reptilians? Are these just? I had in one of my cases, the woman had a reptilian, a small healing reptilian, come into her bedroom. She was a lifelong experiencer, and she was able to actually collect DNA.
Oh,
And
wow.
the laboratory said that it was a combination of DNA from, us, something like us, but also a reptile that lives in South America, whose DNA is the closest to human DNA
Is it a
of
Komodo
any
dragon?
reptile.
What kind of reptile is it?
I wish I could remember.
Okay.
I'd be curious. Okay,
I
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
remember
off.
off the top of
I
my
was thinking
head.
Komodo dragon in my head the whole time.
No,
I
it's
don't know
not
why.
Komodo dragon.
No, okay.
No,
Okay.
it's not that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was
So
very
how'd she
interesting. It was a
collect
MUFON
DNA?
case.
How'd she do that?
He, in the
Sorry, he.
healing process, inserted an instrument vaginally, and there was some kind of fluid exchange or something,
Okay.
Whoa.
and so it was through that.
Okay.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, very, very interesting, I think. So anyway, they're different body types. So you become curious about. Did these actually come from some other planet, or did the Nordics just use their genetic engineering to produce these different body types?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Now talking about body types and circling back to Betty and Barney Hill's experience, if you don't mind, can we go a little bit more into that experience? Just because I know that there's missing time involved, like they went grocery shopping right beforehand, and by the time the experience was over, like the ice cream had turned into soup. So like,
No,
how
that
much
was my
time?
mother.
Oh, that was
your mom.
okay. Sorry,
Yes,
I was
that was
listening
my
to a
mom.
bunch of your videos before we were
Yeah.
talking, but
Here we have my mother and myself. My mother's name was Janet Miller. She's also deceased. And Betty. And that's my house that I lived in as an adult in East Kingston, New Hampshire. On the night of September 20th, 1961, Betty had called my mother. It was actually the afternoon. And I was home from school, and my mother was talking to Betty, and then my mother came to me after and told me about a UFO sighting that she had back in 1958 in South Kingston, New Hampshire. She went grocery shopping every Friday night. And one of those nights when she was grocery shopping, she saw this, what I think of as a mothership, hovering over a field. And there were smaller craft that were flying around it and then flew into it. It was a multiple witness sighting because my mother stopped the car and ran to a nearby home. And the people who lived in that home went outside and saw that craft as well. Funny thing happened to my mother on one of those Friday night grocery shopping trips. I must have been about 12, 13, 14 years old. I know I was a teenager. And she did not come home after that grocery shopping trip. She was very, very late, and my father was very concerned about her. She had bought frozen food, and by the time she arrived home, the frozen food had melted. The ice cream was soup, and she had no explanation for what had happened. She had this missing time. And so I believe that my mother was an experiencer as well. It tends to be generational.
If you don't mind, if we could just go into that story a little bit longer, because you said that they were found like 35 miles from where the encounter started. So like, was the whole car abducted, or was it just them out of the car? Like, I'm so curious about how this transpired.
Yeah, well, let me explain. On the top right, I went to Niagara Falls with my aunt and uncle, not Betty and Barney, another aunt and uncle, about a month before Betty and Barney went to Niagara Falls. I was showing the family the photographs that I'd taken there and talking about what a wonderful time we had. And Betty said to Barney that she had never been there. So he decided to surprise her with a trip to Niagara Falls. And that's how all of this started. Here we see Betty and Barney and their dog Delcy, who was with them on that fateful trip to Niagara Falls and up to Toronto and Montreal in September of 1961. Well, this is the route that Betty and Barney traveled through New Hampshire, upstate New Hampshire, all the way to their home in Portsmouth. And you can see the mileage from each place. From Montreal to the place where they sighted that UFO in New Hampshire, and you can see the stars where they stopped. They sighted the UFO 4 miles south of Lancaster, looked like a new star in the sky that kept growing larger and larger. It was only 169 miles to their home from there. So it was about 11:15, and Betty's watching this craft come in closer and closer while Barney is driving, and she wants him to stop the car so she can get a better look at it. He does stop the car. They get out at the Mount Cleveland picnic area, and they look at the car, the craft there. It was about 11:30 when they went by Cannon Mountain. If you go to the Hugh Gallen Bridge up in the White Mountains today, then you will see the view that Betty and Barney saw when they entered Franconia Notch in 1961. It was Route 3 then. And Betty looked up and she saw this craft over the building on top of Cannon Mountain. And when the craft passed over the lighted building, the light went out. And she was very curious about this, but we know today that there are electromagnetic disturbances that cause lights to go out, that cause cameras to shut down when craft are nearby. Very shortly after that, they stopped at the Old Man of the Mountain, and I kind of like that little UFO. They determined that the craft was around 70 to 80 feet in diameter, based upon the length of the old man's profile. It was spinning, and they believed that it was lighted on only one side because it had a twinkling effect as it turned around. Well, the craft was following them, right beside them, sometimes ahead of them, as they were driving down Route 3. They left Franconia Notch. They came into North Lincoln, to the area where the cabins were in that time frame, where the Indian Head Resort is. And Betty wanted to get a better look at this craft because it was coming in closer and closer. So she said, "Barney, stop again." And he was looking for a place to pull over, but before he could, this craft surged ahead and stopped right over the highway. And then it descended in their direction to about 200 feet above their vehicle. Barney had to stop the car right in the middle of the road. And he got out of the car. He had binoculars with him. He had a pistol in his pocket that he had taken out at the Mount Cleveland picnic area because he was afraid that there would be bears coming out of the woods. And so he got out. He's resting his arms on their 1957 Chevy Bel Air, looking up at this craft, which is, he described as looking like a giant pancake, lighted on the side that he could see. Very bright lights shining through the windows. Betty remained in the passenger seat. Barney kept the car door open. The craft then shifted location to an adjacent field. And when it did, Barney followed it into that field. He continued to have his binoculars with him. He stood there looking up because the internal lights were on in the car, so Betty could not see what was going on in the field. And as Barney looked at that craft, it descended 100 feet above him and then about 50 feet and about 100 feet away. He could see figures looking back at him, and all of a sudden, all but one of them turned in unison and went to what appeared to be a panel on the back of the corridor that seemed to encircle this craft. The one standing in the window frightened him terribly, especially because little red lights started to come out from the sides of that craft on what he called little bat-like wings, and something started to drop out of the bottom of that craft. He was afraid that he was going to be captured like a bug in a net. He became terrified, and he ran back to the car screaming to Betty that they had to get out of there or they were going to be captured. He threw the binoculars onto the seat. Betty had become very, very distressed because he had been in that field much longer than she thought he should be. She was ready to get out of the car and find him, even though the car was in the middle of the road. So he got into the car. As he was getting in, he saw the craft change location again. It was now above their car. He started speeding down Route 3. He said to Betty, "Roll down the window. I think it's above us." Roll down the window and look up. She rolled down the window. She looked up. She was expecting to see lights. She didn't see lights. The moon was 3/4 full that night. It was a bright light night, but all she saw was darkness. They later realized it was the craft. Okay, so I told you about the close encounter where the craft is hovering low. Barney was standing in the field, and he became terrified when all of them, except for one, left the windows and went to a panel, and their arms went up. And when that happened, little red lights slid out on fin-like structures. Something started to drop down out of the bottom of the craft. And we know that's the carrier beam today.
Okay.
And he didn't know what it was. He just saw it coming down, and he saw that face of the one staring down at him. And he had the sensation that he was going to be captured like, quote, a bug in a net, close quote. That's what he said.
Wow.
He pulled the binoculars from his eyes so forcefully that he broke the leather strap, went running back to the car, screaming to Betty that they had to get out of there or they were going to be captured. As he was looking back toward the field, the craft was now moving in his direction.
Okay.
They went speeding down the highway. And then 5 or 6 blocks later, they heard the code-like buzzing sound striking the trunk of the vehicle. So the car vibrated. They felt this like kind of electrical tingling sensation. And the next thing they knew, they were 35 miles down the highway with very little memory of what happened in the interim. They remembered finding themselves on a dirt road lined with tall trees. They remembered a roadblock. And they remembered a fiery orb that seemed to be sitting on the ground.
Wow.
And, they're in this new location, not on the road that they were on. They're just turning up on the overpass up to the highway. I shouldn't have said overpass, the little side part that you drive on to go onto the highway, the interstate.
Entrance ramp.
Yes.
Yeah, the entrance ramp, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they had been on a U.S. highway, U.S. Highway 3. Now they were going on to Interstate 93, as far north as it had been constructed in 1961.
Okay.
So they find themselves there. They hear a second series of buzzing sounds, and they begin speaking. And Betty says to Barney, "Now do you believe in flying saucers?" And he said, "Oh, Betty, don't be ridiculous. I can make that sound. Let me show you." So he stopped the car. He drove from side to side. He did everything he could to make that sound, and he could not make it. But let me tell you that Barney was that kind of person. His relationship with Betty, I mean, they were madly in love with each other, but they loved that kind of bantering kind of relationship.
That's cute.
That's the way they communicated, and Barney got a big charge out of doing that to Betty, that kind of thing. So it wasn't unusual.
Oh, I was waiting for him to point a finger at me.
Oh, that's a nice relationship.
I think you get it from your dad.
Actually.
I do. I am very much like my father.
Yeah, her parents are exactly like that.
Yeah.
They have that type of relationship.
Same. Yep.
Yes. So he couldn't make those sounds, obviously, and they drove home. They had a longing for human contact. They were just looking. Barney had been looking for a police officer to report it to. They were looking for a coffee shop. There was nothing open. They didn't realize that they had lost a full 2 hours time.
2 hours.
Yeah. When they arrived home, they knew it was later than they had anticipated. But it was daylight. It was dawn. They
Wow.
expected to be home by 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
And it was 5. Betty's watch. Well, let me tell you about her watch.
Okay.
She when she arrived home, the watch had stopped running. Now, she had wound it at 10 o'clock that night. And so it had stopped running. She went into the house and she looked at the clock in the house and she set her watch by that time. I have that watch. I don't know why it took me years to look at the time on that watch, but it says 5:16.
Wow.
Oh.
So they arrived home at 5:16 a.m.
Okay.
Or that's when she went into the house.
Mm-hmm.
At least she walked the dog. They had their little dachshund with them.
In the car also? Like during
Yes,
this experience?
the dog was in the car. Yes.
Wow. So what was the whole car abducted? 2 humans, a dog, and the whole car? Like, I'm still trying to figure out these details. Like, I wonder what the dog experienced.
I suspect that craft picked up the car.
I would have to, right? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Betty and Barney, under hypnosis, came to a point after those buzzing sounds where they couldn't remember anything.
Okay.
Anything at all. And so Dr. Simon forced them to go on, and Barney was saying, and I'm driving and I made a turn and I don't know why I made that turn. I suspect that was confabulation. I suspect that he was filling in something for which he had no autobiographical memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he talked about the dirt road lined with trees, and then how he drove around a curve, and there were men in the road, and there was a bright red orange light, like the craft over to the side in the woods.
Sure.
Right. It's giving me Rendlesham vibes.
Mm. And
Yeah.
Betty pretty much described the same thing.
Wow. Okay.
Chris Bledsoe also describes a similar orb,
Yep.
a really bright orange light.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So did Mario Woods. Mario
Yeah.
Woods saw
Mario
a
Woods.
fire. He said he described it as like a mini sun hanging out over the
Right.
nuclear stuff on the
Right.
base.
Mhm.
And then also the guy that was operating the missile silo.
Oh, Bob
Oh,
Salas.
Bob Salas.
Yeah, Bob Salas.
Robert
Yeah.
Salas. Yeah.
Sorry.
Mhm.
Sorry, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people describe that similar, really bright orange orb.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what they saw.
Wow.
And Betty had a series of dreams. She had 5 dreams and 5 dreams only.
After
And
the
they
fact.
occurred, the first one was about 10 days after they had their close encounter. She
Mhm.
had only those 5. They occurred first thing in the morning, just as
Mhm.
she was waking up. Took me years to do the research and get answers on how that happened. And what I found out is that when you have that dream at that time of day, then it can contain information that really happened to you. But then, since you have anxiety that you're working through, you add fantasy material here and there.
Mm.
Okay.
So probably her dreams were a combination of both,
Okay.
because she dreamed about things for which she was consciously aware. She had those memories of part of it,
Yeah.
but then the part regarding the amnesia was a little bit uncovered through her dream. So that's always been a point of contention by skeptics, debunkers, that, and even Dr. Simon eventually came to believe that Betty had these dreams and Barney overheard her dreams, absorbed the information, and they both relived Betty's dreams under hypnosis. Now, I did a comparative analysis of their statements, and I do believe that there was some overlap there, that there was some confabulation. But
Okay.
there's also information that correlates both from Betty's and Barney's sides, which is not in Betty's dreams.
Okay.
And so that's very important, because that causes me to believe that this was, in fact, a real abduction.
Right.
And then, of course, you had all the physical evidence. How do you explain that? The debunkers would say, oh, they created it, but no, they did not.
Yeah.
How do you explain the trauma?
Right.
All of that. So I think that, so there were maybe parts of it that were confabulation, but
Okay.
a lot of it was just a real event being lived separately by 2 different people under separate hypnosis, where Dr. Simon reinstated amnesia at the end of each session so
Mhm.
they could not share information.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he took safeguards too.
I know it's too late now, because I'm sure that yeah, I was just thinking I'm still thinking about the dog, right? Because like
Mhm.
the dog was there too, and the dog is another sentient being. So it's like I'm wondering what the dog remembered or what the dog experienced, or
Well, I
like
can
if
tell you a little bit.
Ooh.
Yeah,
here for it.
about
What's the
that.
dog's name, by the way? I don't want to just keep saying the dog.
Delcy.
Delcy. Okay, thank
Her
you,
Delcy.
name was
Delcy.
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 Okay.
And so Delcy was bothered by those buzzing sounds.
I'm sure.
And then the next thing you know about Delcy is that Barney was taken back to the car first. In Betty's dreams, they were taken together, but not in what they said separately. And they
Okay.
agreed on what they said separately to Dr. Simon. So Barney's taken back first, and Delcy's under the seat, as far stuffed under as she could possibly get. And she is just quivering. She's terrified.
I'm sure.
So he puts his hand down and he pats her and he picks her up and comforts her. Now, then Betty finally comes down to the car and she does the same thing with Delcy. When they arrived home, Delcy developed a fungus infection on her back.
Okay.
Now, did that come from Barney's hands or E.T.'s hands? Betty's hands? I'm thinking about the pink powdery substance that was deposited on Betty's dress.
Yeah.
What?
Because it was more than torn. The dress was blue. She put it in her closet because it was going to have to be repaired. She sort of forgot about it and took it out at a later date. And when she did, there was a pink powdery substance that degraded the fiber of the dress and discolored the dress pink.
Whoa.
In many areas. Highly saturated with pink in the areas where Betty and Barney remembered that where the ETs placed their hands.
Wow.
Or where the dress dropped onto the floor when the examiner removed that dress or tried to remove it. He didn't know how to operate a zipper, so he destroyed her zipper, and he tore out the stitching around the top of the zipper too.
It's so funny that they're so advanced, but they can't figure out a zipper.
They're just too far in their history, I guess.
Yeah. That's a funny,
just tried to
point
tear
to
it
ponder.
apart and
So
destroyed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. There's so many. Okay, I'm listening.
So
I'm
that
just
dress
processing.
it's been examined in several scientific laboratories.
Okay.
Did the pink powdery substance come back as anything definitive that we have on Earth?
Well, everything can be found on Earth. What the scientists in UFO abduction cases look for is anomalies.
Isotopes. Okay.
So, yeah, anomalies. Something that should not be there. You know, for example, in the most recent study by the chemistry laboratory at a major university, they discovered tellurium and rhodium on Betty's dress, two rare earth metals.
Yeah.
Very expensive, high melting points. You can find them certainly on this planet, like 1 part per billion or something like that. But there's no reason that should be on Betty's dress. Her dress was preserved. She never had a floppy disk. You could use some rhodium on a floppy disk, not a floppy disk, on a CD.
Okay.
She never even had a computer.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
And that dress was very carefully taken care of. I'm the trustee of the estate. I was the executor. So I preserved that dress, and it just hung in a closet with a bag and to protect it.
Sure. Yeah.
So no way that could have gotten there. And then it went to the University of New Hampshire, where it was very carefully preserved.
Okay.
And kept in a box. And you had to wear gloves on your hands to even touch it. So there's no prosaic explanation for how rhodium and tellurium arrived on the fabric of Betty's dress. But I also wanted to mention, as I was doing research on what they're used for, semiconductors, nanosheets, nanofibers, nanoparticles, that kind of thing. So I found that very interesting. But, you know, it's an anomaly. It's not, an isotopic ratio from an asteroid or another planet. And those rare earth metals are more abundant in our solar system.
Okay.
It's telling, right? It's telling.
Yes, yes.
There are
It
so
is.
many interesting points about this case that I'm like so glad I get to speak with you about, because it's like
Yeah, me
it's
too.
like blowing my mind. Like I'm sitting here thinking like maybe I should be talking more, but I really just need time to process this. Like, I'm learning new things here. What do you think is the most, all right, what's something from this case that you think people most misunderstand or like don't realize or appreciate enough?
I think that because the debunkers have been extraordinarily active, they have, there are a couple of things. They have portrayed Betty and Barney as being very, very different than the couple that they were. Betty
Character
was
assassination, huh?
character assassination, yes. Yeah. They've portrayed Barney as being a weak man, as someone who would do or say anything that Betty told him to. Look, a weak man does not marry, a black man does not marry a white woman in 1960.
Yeah.
And Barney was in the civil rights movement. Barney was appointed to serve on the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights as a representative from the state of New Hampshire.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not a weak man at all. That's somebody
that
who
is
stands
not a
on
weak-
business, 10 toes down.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, they portray Betty as being a kook. Betty was a highly intelligent woman. Betty was strong. She was the chairman of the interracial student committee on campus when she went to the University of New Hampshire. She was a social worker.
Wow.
She was like a walking encyclopedia. Betty and Barney were both, through their church, envoys to the United Nations.
Wow.
They're both extraordinarily active in their community, in their state. We were invited to Lyndon Johnson's inauguration before anyone knew that this had happened to Betty and Barney.
Wow.
And we went. And I have a photograph of us with the New Hampshire delegation.
Nice.
So, we're politically active, upstanding members of the community.
Absolutely.
Rational as the cows come home.
Not some weak-minded pushovers that don't know anything, right? Like
Yeah,
that's how
fantasy.
the debunkers tried to paint you guys?
Yeah. Not weak-minded, not fantasy prone, not credulous. And then the debunkers try to paint this whole thing as I said earlier, a light in the sky. Betty's fantasy prone. She arrives home and has some dreams and convinces Barney they've been abducted. You just listened to me speak for an hour on something like that, on the real evidence, and it's on my website.
Yeah.
Go there and look at that evidence, and then you'll know the truth. Now the debunkers have accused me of having an old typewriter and creating
wow.
these reports.
They'll think
That's
and say
incredible.
anything, right?
They will. They'll just say anything.
Right. In my opinion, those people are so dumb.
Well, they're
really
certainly
are.
not scientific.
No. And, it's like their minds are closed off.
Yeah.
To so much so that they literally can't even hear the evidence.
Right.
And
Yes.
it's mind-boggling to me how these people come up with excuses to try to explain it away to make them less scared of the reality.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Hashtag swamp gas and dino beavers.
I know, right? It's so stupid.
Silly.
Yeah.
It
I once had a
literally is.
debunker who launched a personal attack against me. This was years ago.
Okay.
And then he contacted me privately and told me he was really an experiencer.
Are you freaking kidding me?
I am not kidding you.
Oh my gosh. So
I blocked him
who
anyway,
paid him
but-
to be a jerk then? Like what was his motivation?
I don't know. why he was doing that.
Yeah.
If he was
Wow.
being paid to do it, or, if this was some kind of coating, protective coating he's putting him over himself.
Denial is
or
not just a
what?
river in Egypt, right?
Right, absolutely. But yeah, I ended up blocking him, so I don't know what happened.
Good for you.
Yeah,
I
good
don't
for
need
you.
that kind of baloney.
Right, right. I mean, how can an experiencer? Okay, so the only thing that makes sense to me is he was terrified of his own experience, so he was trying to probably explain everything else away, um, to make an attempt to explain away his experience,
Yeah.
to make
Mhm.
himself feel better, probably.
Yeah.
Could be.
I don't know.
I
Yes.
hate to make this analogy, but it's the only thing coming to my mind. It's the same thing with people that are homophobic, like how they lash out at gay people and lash out at gay people, but really they have their own emotions that they haven't addressed or they're uncomfortable with. And like,
Mhm.
that's why they're so like, about it. But that's a whole different topic.
Yeah, but a good analogy.
Thank you. I
Right.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Very good analogy.
I
Yes.
wish every single debunker or skeptic could have their own experience so that they could know for
For
themselves
real.
this is real.
I want to
Yeah.
send an ET over to Mick West's house, to Neil deGrasse Tyson's house. Let's send one
Mike
to
Shermer.
let's send one to Bill Nye the Science Guy. He could see one too,
Right?
My Aunt Betty always used to attempt to send a UFO to Philip Klass's house. Do you
Oh,
remember Philip Klass,
no.
the most prolific anti-UFO propagandist of the 20th century?
Oh,
You don't hear much about him anymore because he's been dead since I think it's 2004.
okay.
But
Oh wow.
yeah, but he was the most prolific and nastiest
Mm,
UFO debunker.
Wow.
okay.
Wow.
Well, I feel like other people have probably tried to take his place because when you were talking about the people that like are all the debunkers, the professional ones, I was also thinking about what's her name? Susan Goff? Is
Oh,
that
go.
Susan Go,
Susan Go.
the Wikipedia lady with this, what is it? The gorilla skeptic?
Skeptic.
Have you heard of that? Are you aware of that?
No,
The
I
gorilla
haven't.
skeptic army. So basically, are you familiar with the website Wikipedia? I'm
Oh,
sure
I
you are.
Yeah.
have heard. I
Where they
have heard
basically
that.
go in and they just like take out people's credentials or they like take out pertinent information and they just like they strip any kind of title or relevance or proof of this phenomenon being real.
Mhm. Wow, I wonder if she's being paid for that or if she just gets her jollies from doing it.
That's a good
Yeah.
question.
I did hear about a guerrilla group who go around and attack people in the field.
Yep, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, physically attack and
Oh.
verbally attack.
Oh, I don't know
no, I
about
haven't heard of that.
physically. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, okay.
I'm the case I'm specifically referring to is the Wikipedia army that goes on and just
Yeah.
takes everything because Wikipedia is like the first
Okay.
thing that pops up in search results. So like if they can scrub that site, then there's less people that will learn the truth or less people that will have the relevant information to go down the
Right.
rabbit holes and to figure everything out. But
Like-
anyway,
Oh,
Like
I'll have to look her up.
yeah.
a perfect example of that exact scenario is let's say you have a neuroscientist that's studying
Mhm.
consciousness. The
Mhm.
fact that he's studying consciousness and can't come up and can't really figure out where consciousness comes from, this group will go on his Wikipedia page and edit it and make it seem like he's doing quackery.
Yep.
Yeah, and
So they're
completely discredit.
anti-intellectual.
Yeah.
They're the
Absolutely.
guys who in the 1930s would be burning books
Yeah,
Literally,
yeah.
over
literally.
in
Or
Germany.
destroying plates like the astrophysicist over at that observatory that Dr. Beatrice Viruel was trying to get information from. What was his name? Oh, Mendelssohn. The Mendelssohn gap? What is it called?
No.
The Mendel?
That's-
I don't know.
Mandela?
No,
No,
that's
no.
I know what you're talking about there.
Okay.
No.
I'll just table that idea because I'm brain
Okay.
farting right now.
All
I'll
right.
table that idea. But I do want to take this opportunity because I'm looking behind you and your book Captured is on the desk back there. So I wanted
Yes.
to talk about that. It's been called the definitive work on the Hill abduction. So what was
Yes.
the most challenging part about documenting this story?
Oh, I
Oh.
think doing the investigation myself. I had I had lots and lots of documents from my aunt's case.
Mm-hmm.
I also went out and interviewed every investigator, researcher who was still alive that I could interview about that and acquire any information, any records that they had as well. But then just going up to that route, my husband and I actually drove the entire route that Betty and Barney drove in the same time frame, stopping at the same places or in the same general location, just looking for gaps, looking for some kind of inconsistency or something to explain, give a prosaic explanation to what happened. And this is just the route that they followed. You can see, and I wish that this pointer would work. There it is. Right up here is the section of New Hampshire where this occurred. Here's Twin Mountain, where the picnic area was, just south of there, Franconia Notch, Cannon Mountain, and it follows down. And this is the area where they believe they were abducted in Thornton, New Hampshire. The only problem is that they remembered finding themselves on a strange road that they hadn't been on before, and they had no idea how they had gotten there. And there's a bridge right here that crosses Route 3. I was with them when they finally found the abduction site. So off from Route 3, they would drive onto 175 and down here, and this was Millbrook Road. It's a housing development now, but in those days it was just a dirt road, a logging road. And so that is basically the route that they took. Now, that's how thorough I've been in all of this, stopping where they stopped, staying in that vicinity, just kind of shadowing what they did in that time frame. And one of the debunkers said that they had been driving 17 hours at that point. Well, maybe on the whole trip, but certainly not that day.
Yeah.
That's what they do. But, and he said that they were so tired, they must have been hallucinating this.
Just like everything in the sky is a Chinese spy balloon.
Right. So, my husband and I had to see if we were hallucinating. And although we were 20 years older than Betty and Barney,
Right.
we were not hallucinating.
Right.
We did not hallucinate a UFO, nor did we see a UFO, nor were we abducted. But
Dang it.
we just went and sort of relived everything that they did in that time frame, looking for a prosaic explanation, and we could not find one.
Okay.
We could not find 2 hours of missing time.
Wow.
We couldn't get it.
Wow.
So it proves, based upon that investigation, that their story makes perfect sense.
Right.
Everything makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Another challenge was I went to the American Philosophical Society and made several trips down there. So that was the challenge was the expense.
Oh, okay.
of doing that, to go down there and spend several days, and I made 3 trips in all.
Wow.
Going through all the debunkers' files, because Dr. Donald Menzel, who was a big debunker who might have been on MJ12.
Is that who I was just
That's
talking
who you were thinking about.
Dr.
Yeah.
Menzel. That's who I was
The
looking
Menzel
for.
gap.
Menzel
gap. Yeah.
Yeah, the Menzel gap in the plates.
Plates of astronomical observatories findings. He just burned or destroyed a whole bunch of them, which essentially destroyed evidence that there were lights up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
he was that kind of guy.
Yeah.
He was very closely connected to the NSA, in the Navy, back to when it was Naval Intelligence, and then NSA, and closely connected to the CIA. He was just going through all the files and the records and the government files too, getting everything together. And Stanton and I wrote another book titled Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers. So a lot of that is in that book.
Okay.
But Menzel, the effort that he went to just to convince the public that none of this was real. And it's truly amazing. He was on the board of directors at the American Philosophical Society. And of course, he was at the Harvard Observatory at Harvard, very closely connected to the federal government. I found a letter that correspondence between him and Carl Sagan, where he was advising Carl Sagan that when he was, and I'm going to use my own language, but when he was a young scientist, he sort of bucked the system and didn't go with the zeitgeist of the old guard. And finally, he sort of woke up and followed that path. And he was highly successful doing that. And so maybe Carl Sagan should consider changing his approach to what he was doing. And then Carl Sagan became a debunker too.
Yeah.
But initially, early on, he was not.
No.
So I found a lot of really interesting things. And of course, Philip Klass's extensive file is there because he introduced himself to Donald Menzel when the scientific study on UFOs was being conducted at the University of Colorado, under Edward Condon. And so Philip Klass inserted himself in there into Edward Condon's group, sort of convinced Edward Condon, Donald Menzel, that he had a doctorate. Menzel just assumed that. Klass actually had a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering.
Okay.
But they decided to go on a first name basis instead of calling each other doctor.
So is this the Condon report? Condon, is that what you're talking about?
I'm talking about Condon. And so Philip Klass worked his way into that. I think he was working for the CIA. I could not find a paycheck or, anything like that.
Yeah.
But from his methodology, from the way he worked, I found evidence that he had been in trouble with the federal government for revealing classified information. And so, and he was also being tailed because he had a relationship with a young man at the Soviet embassy and was going to a lot of social occasions at the Soviet embassy.
Okay.
And the FBI actually searched Philip Klass's apartment looking for radio equipment that would broadcast into Eastern Europe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I found that. Now, they could not prosecute. They did not find that equipment. They could not prosecute Klass. In order to prosecute them, they would then have to declassify that classified information. And they weren't willing to declassify it. So, but Stanton Friedman, who had a Q clearance, he was a nuclear physicist and a rocket scientist. And so with that, when you have that kind of clearance and you violate confidentiality, if they don't want to prosecute you and reveal the information, they can make a deal with you that you will work with them and to do their bidding. And so Philip Klass, after he had all of these problems, suddenly became a debunker and was very, very active in doing this. And got into Edward Condon's good graces through Robert Lowe, who was the assistant project manager.
Right.
Who ran the project, actually. And Very, very interesting. It's all in the book that Stanton and I wrote, Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers. Really
Awesome.
interesting information from both Menzel's files and Condon's files and Philip Klass's files.
All of
It's
that.
all
All
there.
of that.
And what they did to case after case, really good evidence cases to destroy them and destroy the people involved too.
Right, right.
Yes.
And what's so crazy is like if there's not a there, why would these people make so much effort to try to cover up something
Right.
that isn't
Yeah,
real?
yeah,
Right.
uh-huh.
Right.
You know, it's
I
crazy.
think the CIA or the government was behind a lot of the debunking.
Sure.
Personally, that's
Oh,
what
yes.
I think.
Yeah, feeding
Yes, I agree.
misinformation, just shove misinformation out there, confuse people.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if you, in the book, you'll read about the Robertson panel. Are you aware of the Robertson panel, 1953?
No.
No. Well, that's the year my mom was
Okay.
born.
Well,
Well,
real
in
quick.
19,
Sorry, I don't mean to
sorry,
I don't mean
go
to
ahead.
interrupt you. But I really wish I could have met Stanton
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
before we move
He
on from
was a
him. But
wealth of information, of knowledge.
yeah,
Really
uh-huh.
bright guy, too.
Yeah, I
shout out
really wish
Stanton.
we could have talked to him.
Yeah.
And a great sense of humor.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He
Sorry,
was
I didn't mean to
legit.
interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem. I always like to talk about Stanton.
So
It
what
was
was
a
this
delight to
panel?
work with him. So the Robertson panel, well, starting in 1952, when there were the UFOs over Washington, D.C.,
Oh,
that
Mm.
yeah.
they, attempted to dismiss as being blips on the radar screen from an inversion. They had inversions all that summer long. That they didn't have UFOs all summer long.
Uh,
So
I'm sure you read Dr. Beatrice Villarroel's paper, right? Villarroel's paper.
I don't
It
know.
recently came out, and she has correlated through observations of. She's an astronomer that lives in Sweden, I think.
Sweden. Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I
And
don't think I've read it.
I would recommend it because she has basically correlated that we have lights observed in the skies before we launched any satellites into space, and these lights correlate to nuclear explosions, and also they correlate to the Washington D.C. UFO case.
Yep.
Yeah, that's something that we found in our research is that whenever there was the detonation of a nuclear weapon
Hmm.
or a nuclear bomb, the UFOs were in there. And
Mm.
originally, the scientists who were observing it thought that it must have been some kind of fallout from the nuclear weapons. And then there was even speculation about whether the nuclear explosions opened up another dimension and they were
Right.
coming in through that. So there
Ripping
was
a
a
hole
lot of
through space-time.
speculation.
Yeah. Mhm.
But getting back to the Robertson panel.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I told you about what happened in Washington in 52.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Dr. Donald Menzel is very, very involved
Ah.
in UFOs and attempting to debunk them. He actually met at the Pentagon with military officers who wanted them to cooperate with his plan to write it all off through a few simple experiments that he did as some kind of atmospheric problem that could be easily explained. So, and the Pentagon did not go along with him.
Wow.
And then he began collecting files, Air Force files, reports on UFOs. And they'd already done some studies before that. So these files in 1952 from the Air Force went to the CIA-funded Robertson panel.
Okay.
And so there were 6 scientists who were government scientists. One of them ended up winning a Nobel Prize, but they were government scientists who went in and closely read over a lot of the reports, but closely examined a few. And one of them was the Tremonton, Utah case. This is just to give you a little information, one
Okay.
example, where a military officer who was a photographer, an aircraft photographer, who had well over 1,000 hours of flight time. I think it was far more than that. He and his
Okay.
wife and 2 kids traveling across the United States from one base to another to be relocated. They're going through Tremonton, Utah. They've just gone through, and there's a UFO in the sky. And it's down fairly close. And they're watching it and watching it. And then he decides that he is going to stop the vehicle, go to the trunk, get out his camera, set up the camera, and photograph it. So it's more than one UFO, but some are in very close. By the time he was able to take the photographs, they were further off in the distance. That
Okay.
film went to, I think it was the Navy or the Air Force. It's been a while since I've talked about it, sorry. But it went to 2 military units.
Okay.
They did frame by frame analyses
Okay.
on it to try to identify what was on that film. It was not birds. It was not aircraft. It was not, anything that they could identify after 1,000 hours of analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So these scientists looked at the video,
Okay.
the government scientists, and one of them who lived on the coast of California said, "Looks like seagulls to me. Send it back."
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. How scientific of them, right?
So frustrating.
Send it back for reanalysis.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then, so the Robertson panel ended up making the decision. The CIA wanted them to start dismissing UFOs. So the idea was that they were going to get scientists and people who wrote newspaper articles, books, that kind of thing, to use logical deduction in order to dismiss all of this as, it's not real. It must be this or it must be that, atmospheric inversion, blips on the radar screen, that kind of thing. And so that was the plan. And also, if you can look this up online and find it, but the Robertson panel made the decision that UFO organizations were a threat to national security. So they needed to watch these organizations and the people who held high-ranking positions in the organizations as well. And they also wanted to embarrass credible members of the community who had UFO sightings by making them look foolish. So it was a complex, orchestrated plan.
Right.
To give false information to the American public.
Such organized effort to put out a bunch of BS, right? Like it's literally what it boils down to. It's like they want to take away all the facts, throw out a bunch of crap answers, character smear the people who are trying to tell the truth. It's
destroy
like
evidence.
Destroy evidence. It's objective evidence. Classify things that are national security.
Right.
So it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like we know what's going on. Just tell us.
Right. It's all one big cover up.
Literally.
And with Menzel destroying those plates to me is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, why destroy astronomical observatory data, right? And they now call that the Menzel gap in that data set.
Yep.
And now a legitimate astronomer has gone back and reanalyzed the plates that we still have and has found that there is evidence of UFOs in the skies, and they're correlated to the Washington case or correlated to nuclear explosions. I mean, it's screaming, CIA cover up to me.
It was.
Literally.
Absolutely was.
Yeah.
Right. Kathleen, I wanted to ask you if you could please share with our audience where they can find you online, drop your links, let them know where they can find your book, and then any cool upcoming events you have going on.
Okay. Well, you can find me at my website, kathleen-marden.com. I have a link there where you can contact me. My books are for sale there if you'd like an autographed copy of them.
Ooh.
If otherwise, you can go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble. My books are available in all different platforms, ranging from hard copies to audio to, everything in between.
Nice.
So
Okay.
they're all there. You'll find most of them under my name. You might have to look under Stanton Friedman if you don't find my name, and you'll see the two of us are there
Okay.
on the book together. But
Okay.
we used his name first on the books that we wrote together.
Sure. Sure.
You have conferences coming up. Did you want to mention those?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome.
I'll be at Roswell
Nice.
in July, 4th of July weekend at the International UFO Museum and
Aw.
Research Center,
We
speaking
should try to go
there.
there.
I'm there.
Let's drive. Let's
Let's
go
go.
At
there.
great length on Betty and Barney, 2 lectures on them.
Okay.
One about their encounter and the hypnosis, and then the next one about the aftermath after a violation of confidentiality took this to the public.
Wow.
Wow.
So yeah, both will be really interesting. Then I'm going to go in September to Portsmouth or to Exeter, New Hampshire,
Okay.
and Portsmouth. I'll be speaking at the Exeter UFO Festival. Looking forward to that.
Mhm.
It's near where I grew up, and be speaking again on Betty and Barney.
Mhm.
'Cause local girl, everybody loves to hear it coming from me.
Sure. Absolutely.
And and then the Portsmouth Historical Society has an exhibit which is going to open in April and go through November on Betty and Barney. I've been helping them with that, and I'm going to be there for a day to
Ooh.
answer questions. I'm also going to be speaking at a big resort up in the White Mountains, and I don't even know the name of the resort yet, but
Okay.
that information will be coming. I'm working on a documentary. I'm the co-executive producer on that, so
Wow.
we'll be doing a shoot when I'm up there too. So it's going to be a
Awesome.
busy time.
Awesome.
Plus, visiting my family and going to my high school reunion.
Oh, wow.
That'll be
Yes,
fun.
it will
Wow.
be fun. Yeah.
Wow.
So lots of doings in New Hampshire. Plus, eating as much seafood as I can.
Oh,
Okay.
I gotta
Sure.
get that
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Kathleen, so I have a question that I like to ask everybody. What is your greatest hope for the future of humanity?
That we will listen to what the ETs tell us, that we need to increase our level of spirituality. That doesn't mean you have to start going to church. You just need to become more spiritual, more mature, have a different outlook. Stop the hatred, stop the violence, stop the arguing. Try to
Mhm.
get along with other people. And when we all do that, when there's more love and respect in this world, then we can strike a balance with our technological development. We'll realize the importance of humanity, of our fellow human beings. And when we do that, we're not going to want to kill them.
Right. Oh
I
my
love that
goodness.
answer.
Me too. This has been such an awesome
Yeah.
conversation. I feel like we barely even picked the surface.
I know.
It's like a tiny little flick of
know.
like all the information you have stored in you. I just want to thank you for being so awesome, for being so involved, for being so analytical, for being such a research-minded, fact-driven person, because like that's what we need to validate these kinds of experiences and the phenomenon. And I'm sure
Absolutely.
that Betty and Barney Hill are like,
Yeah.
woo, 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 from Manhattan looking down at you.
Yeah.
So shout out to them too, and shout out to Delcy also.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
This
cool.
has been great.
Well, it was really a pleasure to talk with you and have this conversation. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed
So
it.
Yeah,
much.
I would absolutely love if you would come back on the show
Yeah.
sometime in the
Sure.
next year.
Sure,
You
I'd
know?
be happy to.
Because I didn't even get to tell you my experience.
Yes, I want
I'm
to
an
hear about
experiencer
that too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Uh-huh.
let's get you back on
Yeah,
then. Very cool.
Could have
Yeah.
a show about my work with experiencers, and you could tell me all about what happened to you.
Okay, great.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Because
okay.
I was the director of MUFON's experiencer research team for 10 years. I was
Wow.
the founder of that group.
Okay.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
wow.
you guys, you have further conversations to have then.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Hey guys, any last pieces of advice or things we would like to say before we close out tonight?
I just want to thank everybody watching. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
All right. Thank you so much. And for our audience, thank you guys for sticking around and watching this and hanging out with us and sharing your ideas and everything. Please do us a favor and smash that like button. Click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. All right, Kathleen, we do a 3-piece hand gesture closure. I will demonstrate it for you. If you're willing to join us, that's great. If you don't want to, that's cool too. We do much love with a heart, peace, and namaste. Are you down to join?
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
Much love.
Love everybody.
Much love.
Yeah. Peace.
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 Yeah. And namaste.
Namaste.